welcome to the OKD Working Group meeting for March 14th of the year 2023. And we've got an agenda laid out, and let's go ahead and get started with Shireen and Luigi for OKD release and CI/CD updates.
Yes, sure. So to be honest, from the release perspective, we are still waiting for Christian to, he's busy working on working with the CNCF SIG group to get a couple of RPMs built on the CNCF SIG group, and then we can go ahead and continue with the releases. The thinking here is that we'll have 3 releases now: 4.14 dev, 4.13, and 4.12 stable. So hopefully at the end of, we're trying to do a sprintly release. So we're in our second week of the sprints, and next week or maybe the week after we'll have hopefully have a sprint for all 3. I mean a release for all 3. So I don't know, Shireen, if you want to add anything to that.
No, nothing much. Unfortunately, last week we were just trying to fix and get PRs settled.
All right, does anyone have any questions or comments or any type of feedback on that? All right, and don't forget to put your name in the attendees section so that we know that you are here. All right, let's move on now to FCOS updates with Timothy.
Hey folks, does this work properly? Yeah, all right, good. So the main news for us is that with the Fedora 38 beta released, we are now moving our Fedora 38 next stream to Fedora next stream to the Fedora 38 release. So this isn't impacting OKD yet. It will likely be for the next release. It's likely, I think, that the 4.13 release will stay on Fedora 37 for now. But yeah, so we're moving to this one for Fedora CoreOS. That's the main thing I have for today, because that's a big change for us. Otherwise, I don't think we have anything specific that landed that would impact OKD yet. So yeah.
All right, thanks. Any feedback or thoughts on what Timothy relayed to us? All right, moving on now to the SCOS updates. Is there anyone here that can speak to those? I don't know.
No, unfortunately, Christian's not here, so
yeah, I don't think we have anyone to really speak on it.
Yeah.
All right, moving up to Brian with community development updates.
Okay, so we had our call last Tuesday. There is no video of it. Jamie had a conflict, and we didn't have a chance to sort out hosting permissions. So the HackMD is the master record of that meeting. A couple of things we talked about. So Dwayne talked about just getting the glossary. He's been doing some work to actually look at communities getting some grant funding. And what he's coming across is an argument or a discussion that we've had here a number of times around what is open source, what is OKD, what's the relationship between OCP, which is also open source, and he's coming across some confusion there. So we've had this discussion several times in this community, but I don't think we've ever got around to actually putting it to bed and writing it So we do need to put something in the documentation to try and be a little bit more clear about what is the relationship between OKD, OCP, and Dwayne will actually update the glossary and bring that in line. Michael Burke was on the call, so we had a chance to talk about documentation. The pull request is still the method that we use to update the documentation. We did chat around one of the problems with pull requests is that we can't really build the documentation and test it out. So before you do a pull request, you obviously want to make sure it formats. So it is going to have to be a bit of a collaboration between someone that wants to create some documentation and Michael to actually get the formatting right, test it works before it's actually pushed into the documentation. Not ideal, and it's something that we do need to look at. Is there a way that we can actually build? At the end of the day, it is open source tooling, but there's quite a sort of a process to actually go build it, and the scripts aren't in the repo at the minute. So we need to look at that. There was a comment in the discussion forum just this week around SNO. So we do need to try and the person that volunteered didn't come through, so we need to find a new owner for that and get an SNO set of instructions around the assisted installer. I know Luigi's doing the nuts and bolts version from sort of ground up, but we probably do need the assisted installer, the easy way of doing it documented within the product documentation. So docs.okd.io. And then the last part of the meeting, we really talked about how the community can engage, and we're going to try for the second time to focus on the project board. So the idea is the community meetings will move to be driven by the project board. So if there's something you want to do or there's something you're doing, it should be on the project board. So we're going to try and for next meeting to get that project board updated. We last sort of looked at this sort of September, October last year, and it sort of fell out of use. So the plan is for next week to try and get all the outstanding actions updated to work out, is it active work? Has it been sitting there with nothing done? There are some that the work's been done, but they've not been closed. So we want to bring that up to line for next week. I'm a little bit sort of strapped at the minute. I smashed my laptop screen, I cracked the screen and it stopped working. So my personal laptop I don't have access to, so I'm on iPad today. So I need to actually write some documentation. I volunteered to actually write some documentation to try and get the project board, some processes written around, some simple instructions, so we're all going to use it in the same way. And then, so I think that was more or less it. As I say, HackMD is the source of truth for last week's meeting, and there is going to be no video. Any questions?
Any questions? Any thoughts on that? And I apologize, it was a last minute thing that I was not able to attend the last meeting, but we'll work it out so that Brian can manage and steer the ship at a technical level. I just need to give access. So moving on then to the next part of this show is Colin, you wanted to bring something up?
Yeah, hey, just basically two quick things. The first is, I mean, I can't promise anything, but it seems like we may get some time this OpenShift release dev cycle to try and split the OS base image from the OpenShift parts. There's a lot of profound implications to this because, you know, like as everyone knows, like the sort of decision to lifecycle bind the OS with OpenShift and update that as a unit has had a lot of architectural implications on everything. But I think we've all agreed for a while that it would just like right now today, when the kubelet changes, we still run the Lux tests, for example, which makes no sense, right? And actually, we want to get to the point where we build an OS base image that is just CentOS content, and then OpenShift branches or OKD branches are layered on top of that. There's a lot going on in here, and I know Christian was sort of interested in this, a lot of details on how that works, but I think we've all agreed. Well, I can't promise anything, but it seems likely we'll do it. And like we have the big problem today that the way the OKD pipeline works is totally different from how the production pipeline works. This would impact both of them. I don't understand the OKD pipeline. I feel like maybe I just need to, I don't know, get a brain dump from someone. Maybe we could even try and do that in OKD first. A lot involved in that. Yeah, did I sell this well enough?
Yeah, cool, Colin. I think if you have some time, we could arrange and we could go through, what we've done on that. It's based. I'm sure it's based on Tecton, so it's fairly straightforward. Making use of COSA and COSA build init and all those commands, and then just run you through it, and then just sort of give you a quick introduction, and then you can then tell us what's the best way to go then. Yeah,
for sure. Okay, yeah. Well, maybe we can schedule that for next time or something like that, or asynchronously. Because again, I'm not totally sure we'll get time to work on this because we can't break everything, but yeah, it would be hugely beneficial. I think this does lead though to like the next topic. At the same time, I feel like how thinking of the OS as a container image and deriving from that, we've been like slowly reorienting ourselves towards that. But my whole spiel on this is basically the OS as a bootable container is not an OpenShift feature. It should be a Linux feature. And the CentOS bootsy sig is very much taking like many steps forward. It's like, what if we have a much smaller image than RHEL Core OS today that is actually produced in version from the OS? So like, I'd love to see the bootable OS image comes from CentOS. Like what CentOS produces is not composes and Yum repos, but a bootable container image that's CI tested, and we take that very seriously. And it's integrated into the CI processes in CentOS. So like, today when a kernel developer in CentOS does a merge request, that kicks off various pipelines in that. And so we need to think about, like it'd again be CentOS focused, which would probably not be Tecton. But I don't know, there's a lot of discussions there, but then OpenShift would literally just derive node image from that. But in the short term, and there's a bunch of stuff, like if bootsy succeeds, then rpm-ostree would basically be deprecated because we'd stop doing package installs per node, all that stuff. So a lot going on there, but in order to get the bootsy sig off the ground, other people need to agree to join. So if anyone's interested in that, like couple steps ahead, how do we do this in a CentOS context, decoupled from OpenShift? So it can be used on IoT, it can be used for desktops, all that type of stuff. Please feel free to join the thread. I'm happy to answer any questions about both these things while we're here.
Colin, can you drop a link in the meeting notes so that people can find out more info?
Yeah, they should both be in the agenda.
Let me check and see.
Right.
Oh yeah, there they are. Yeah. Okay.
If you don't have a CentOS board member yet to rep you, I can do it.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. Yep.
All right, cool. Any other questions or comments in regards to what Colin was laying down there?
I guess the question to Timothy is there any implications there on the Fedora? Because obviously with OKD, we've got the dual base now with Fedora and CentOS. And so I was just wondering if there's any sort of ramifications for the Fedora, because I'm aware we also have two different build processes for the two different versions at the minute. So.
it's work we're doing in all in all layers. So the part of this is like already done right now in the SCOS pipeline. So the SCOS pipeline as is set up for OKD is building one single image and is then layering using chorus layering to layer the packages just for OKD to ship in all the variants. So there's already just like one core image of SCOS, Central Stream Chorus, which is kind of independent of OKD, and then it's made to be what's used by OKD for each stream, each version of OKD. So it's part of doing that for at another level, in a sense, doing that, but pushing that to like being the true part of CentOS Stream, true part of like being a core image-based OS that we have in CentOS Stream that could be used for everybody, which is just not something used just for OKD, but being there for everybody to use, and then yeah, OKD would consume that and do it like it does right now, add the packages that it needs, etc., things like that. So that's like taking. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, but for the Fedora release, would that play better with the Fedora community? Because obviously we've got the dual paths at the minute for Fedora and CentOS Stream CoreOS. So I know that for the Fedora community already creates a CoreOS image that's not an OKD image. So does this mean that this is going to be easier to actually then retrofit the same process onto the Fedora released image, or will there be some alignment needed between the CentOS Stream and the Fedora released images so we can then use it in OKD? Does that make sense?
For Fedora CoreOS right now, the OKD variant is as well something built on top of Fedora CoreOS. So it's already a container build now, a layered build. So I guess whether or not where exactly this split happens in Fedora, it's unclear right now, because in Fedora we have like a lot more variants, like we have desktop variants, we have IoT, etc. And so how exactly this is going to be laid out, we don't really know yet. But the thing is that we probably don't want to change how Fedora CoreOS like looks like right now, because we want to keep things working for users right now. So even if we change things at below, it's likely that the interface will stay the same and that OKD could consume that. It could also be that OKD could consume something like below Fedora CoreOS directly and like not gate containerd or something like that in the image. For example, that would slim down the image. You would only get Podman, Cryo, and something like that. And we would stop having containerd in OKD where it's basically unused and something like that. So there's pros and cons every time we do things like that, because you would like benefit less from the testing that is done Fedora CoreOS, but at the same time you would be lifecycle more with Fedora, which matches what's needed for OKD right now. So it's also interesting.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or feedback?
But yeah, just to get into my comment, can someone correct me if I'm wrong? Isn't OKD Machine OS, is this repo actively in use? Because if it is, it's not building a layered container. It's forking the Fedora CoreOS config and stuff like that. Right?
So the build is done differently for Fedora CoreOS and CentOS Stream CoreOS as part of OKD. So SCOS as part of OKD is built in the Tecton pipelines. FCOS is still built in Pro as far as I remember. And I think that this repo here has some Docker files or some branches of it has layered builds, but maybe I forgot something. I don't work on this one all the time, and for sure Christian would have more info.
No, wait. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, if it's building to the Docker file, then it is, yeah. Then, yeah, if you look at the Docker file, it's clearly a derivative of the Fedora CoreOS base image. Yeah, but then I'm confused why it has vendored forces. Anyways, yeah, we can maybe take this to another time. Yeah, a lot to figure out here.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, and just a heads up that at our next meeting, we will have a next working group meeting in 2 weeks. On the 28th, we're going to have Ali, is it Mobrim? Is that, or Mobrim? Is that how you say it? Elmiko, do you know?
I don't know how he pronounces his last name, but
Yeah, so
Ali
M-O,
Mobrim, I guess.
right, so Mobrem, product manager for OpenShift, a product manager is going to come and talk to us and talk a little bit about trying to get more community involvement. We've had some really great guests at the meetings lately to help bolster this community, which I think is really great.
Yeah, just to add a little more, he is like a UX UI project manager. So he wanted to talk about some of the things kind of around that aspect.
Excellent.
So like customizing consoles and stuff like that, I think.
Excellent. Very cool.
Yeah,
Right.
it sounds like they have some new plugin system they're working on. I don't know a ton about it, but it's one of these extensibility things that, like, I have a feeling people in this community would probably be really interested in.
Yeah, for sure. So is there anything else that folks want to talk about before we end the meeting? Is there anything else that we've missed that you want to talk
I had a
about?
couple items I added to the agenda there.
Oh yeah, go right ahead. Yeah.
Under the community development updates. So I did make an initial communications page to contribute to the site, and I opened a PR for it. I also, to draft along with what Brian was saying earlier, I created a card on the planning project for it as well. And I moved it up to like in review status because I basically did all the other work. So I went through and tried to monkey around with like how we would plumb an issue all the way through to the planning board and everything. And I worked through a few of the speed bumps on the way. So some of you might have seen emails coming to your box about like cards being created and deleted and stuff. That was me trying to figure out the proper way to link these things together. But after I did that, I also made a comment on Brian's card, because Brian had made a card about like wanting to do some planning around like how we use that project board. So I made a bunch of notes about my experiences to hopefully help contribute to the conversation that's happening there. The OKD.io website. I also found there's a CI problem currently. So we're not processing, new PRs, like the workflow doesn't work. So I put up a fix for that as well. So, just whenever we get back around to it, like the 21 PR I think is needed first, and then the 20 PR could go after it. But really, I'd like people to take a look at that number 20 PR just to see if that initial capture of our communications is like, does it fall in line with our expectations? Like, are there things people would, like to see on there, or things that I missed maybe, or, things that don't belong on there. So yeah, that's about it.
Excellent. Thanks for all your hard work. Very much appreciated. Anything else that folks have? All right, well, we'll go ahead and end the meeting here, and feel free to reach out in Slack or the working group Google group email list if you have anything pop up. And if folks in the meeting here that are involved with the community development meeting, take a look at the board so that we can hit the ground running next week to start tackling some of those things, or at least organizing them and having status updates, clear status updates on them. All right. Thanks, folks.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks, later.